Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Monday night at Ramone Hyde Speaks, where you're going to find inspiring and encouraging and challenging messages to help you navigate through life. I'm Pastor Ramone, and this is Ramone Hyde Speaks. For joining in. If this is your first time, I'm glad that you're here. You're going to find inspiring messages to help you get through life. And if you're here all the time on Mondays, I'm glad that you continue to stick with me. We are having an exciting time. The last 2 weeks, we've been diving into this new series called Rewind. But hey, this is your first time. You can like and share on Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button on YouTube. And just want to tell you thank you for everyone that's been giving. I've got a little secret that I'm going to share next month about something that I'm doing next year. You're going to be hopefully encouraged by that. But if you are encouraged by this live stream every Monday night, you can help me stay live by giving at RamoneHydeSpeaks.square.site. That's RamoneHydeSpeaks.square.site. Or you can just simply scan the QR code that's on the screen. So thank you very much for your giving. I want to let you know that nothing goes to me. It goes 100% to the ministry here online, to this stream, to help people kind of get through, get closer to God and get closer to the Lord and navigate through life. So let's just jump right in. Last week, we started diving into, 2 weeks ago, we started diving into a new series called Rewired. And I hope that you are enjoying this series. This series is designed to help us rewire our thinking and rewire the promises of God, rewire how we think about the promises of God and what God is doing in our life. And basically, this is based on the book of Joseph in Genesis. I don't mean to say the book of, but it's based on the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. But I went back to the very beginning of Genesis, back to Abraham. That's where we started. And so this is a recap. Last week I was dealing with the title called Promise Keeper, or The Promise. Okay. And we just basically talked about how we can't love the blessing of God more than God himself. We must love the promise keeper, not just the promise. And so I dove into the story of Abraham, where God found himself choosing Abraham and basically promising Abraham to have a child. Abraham was really, really old. He didn't believe. He believed God. His wife didn't. She basically laughed at God and said, I don't think how this is going to be possible. But God did allow Abraham to have that son, and that was the promise. And the name of that promise is Isaac. Okay, but what happened is that Abraham found himself tested when God told him to take Isaac, the promise, to go kill him on top of the mountain. And so we find ourselves, worshiping God's gifts more than God. And God wanted to test Abraham to make sure, hey, listen, I'm giving you this promise, but I want to make sure that you love me, the promise keeper, more than you love the promise, your son. And so that's where we are. That was last week. Today we're on a new chapter. This is week 3 of Rewired, and I'm having a great time. I don't know about you, but it is definitely challenging me. It's definitely inspiring me to get to new places in the Lord. One time I was driving from work, and I had my cell phone in my pocket, and about a minute later, I heard someone yelling my name, and it was faint, but I heard my name. It was like, Ramone. It was very weird. I could hear this voice, and I was looking around. I had the radio up a little bit, just my speaker up a little bit, and the engine's going. But I could hear. I was looking around. I was like, someone's calling my name. I'm driving. I'm like, who in the world would know my name in Turlock or whatever, right? And so I'm driving. I'm like, wait a minute. So I happened to look down, and I noticed that my cell phone I had butt dialed my mom, and she was she was yelling my name in the phone because she knew I was there, but I just didn't realize the phone was on. This is a funny situation, but do you ever have a situation where you didn't even realize that God was kind of doing something in the background and he was calling your name in a sense, like there was something that he was kind of bugging you about. He was calling your name and you didn't even realize that he was at you. You didn't realize he was, but you kind of figured that this probably could be God. I could hear the voice and it sounded like my mom, but I wasn't 100% sure until I looked at the phone. I was like, wait, this is my mom. Listen, today we're talking about the theme and the topic. You ready? God in the background. God in the background. I'm Pastor Ramone, so welcome to Ramone Hyde Speaks. We're just going to dive right in. And so this is going to inspire you and challenge you. I trust you. Please, if you're jumping in for the first time, please share this live stream with someone so they can get encouraged. I'm coming from Genesis chapter 28 tonight, verses 10 through 19. We're talking about God in the background. Here's what's going on. Here's the backstory. So basically, to understand about the story of Joseph, I had to go back to his grandfather, Abraham. And so if you've been with me for the last 2 weeks, you'll probably remember that God made a promise to Abraham about having a son and in his old age. And that seems impossible, right? Well, it was possible. God made that happen. And the promise's name is Isaac. So Abraham has a son named Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah. So Isaac is growing up now. He's grown and he gets married. I got a little diagram I want to show you so that way you can kind of understand what's happening here. So God comes to Abraham and tells him and his wife, Sarah, that they're going to have a child. But Sarah doesn't believe him. So she kind of gets her servant, Hagar, to go and have relations or sex with Abraham, and they end up having a child. Isn't that just like us? Sometimes we just don't trust God, right? And so we do like a counterfeit. Well, Hagar and Abraham end up having a child. So you'll see that child's name is Ishmael, okay? But God said that his promise wasn't with Ishmael, even though he said he would bless Ishmael, but his promise is with Isaac. So Sarah and Abraham have a son named Isaac, and I'm going to introduce you to someone else tonight. Isaac and this new lady named Rebekah, they have a son named Jacob. So I want you to remember that. There's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's where we are tonight. And so I'm going to start. I want you to know this. I'm going to go back a little bit. It says that Isaac had prayed to the Lord, and this is Isaac. Now, remember, this is Abraham's son, the one that this is the promise, right? The situation happens like this. Isaac ends up praying to the Lord on his wife's behalf because she couldn't get pregnant. She was childless. Kind of the same situation with his mom, right? That she couldn't have a child. And this is the reason why, it was so hard for Sarah to believe, because she knew that she was childbearing. So here's Isaac, the son, with the same situation. He prays to God and says, God, listen, if you could let her have a child that I could pass down my inheritance to. And the Lord answers his prayer, and his wife, Rebekah, becomes pregnant. Now, here's something I want to share with you. I want you to hang on to this. The children that Rebekah and Isaac are having, they're twins, and one's name is Esau, and the other is Jacob. I want to remember because I got a lot of people involved now. It's a party. It's a whole party. We got Abraham, Isaac, who was the son of Abraham, and then we have Jacob, who was the son of Isaac and the grandson of Abraham. Now, Isaac and Rebekah have 2 kids, Esau and Jacob. But this is the new character I'm introducing tonight. His name is Jacob. And the reason why he's so important tonight is because Jacob is just like us. I'll tell you why. So in the womb, God was telling Rebekah, when you have these 2 twins, they're basically going to fight each other. The older one is going to come out first, but the younger one is going to have a problem with the older one. And Jacob's name is literally, his name is called supplanter. His name actually means supplanter or pretender or deceiver or liar, if you will. He's kind of a joker. He's kind of a guy. He's a character. But this is something I want to share with you tonight because it's so important. You're going to watch this and you're going to thank me later. I'll start at Genesis chapter 28, verse 10. Here's what's going on. Jacob is grown, and because the way Jacob is, when he came out of his mother's womb, he was fighting his older brother. And long story short, back in those days, whoever the oldest son was the one that would get the inheritance from the father. Well, Jacob ended up lying to his dad one day and went in to get the birth, the blessing, if you will, from his dad. And he pretended to be his brother Esau. And Esau was the one that was supposed to get the inheritance, but Jacob went in there before him and lied to his dad. And so his dad ended up blessing the wrong son. And so Jacob is this character of like liar, deceiver, sometimes like us, right? We like to deceive people sometimes. But God is dealing with Jacob. And God, even though Jacob did what he did and did what he lied and he deceived his dad, God still is going to keep his promise by blessing him. And because I showed you earlier, God was after Abraham, but he's after Isaac. Now he's after Jacob. And he has this spiritual bloodline that's kind of flowing down through all of their lives. So Jacob finds himself one day, he's at a certain place that he stops by for the night because he's going somewhere. He's traveling. I'll start at verse 10, Genesis 28:10. And it says this: Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set, so it was getting dark. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and he laid down to sleep. Verse 12. He had a dream. Now this is where it gets good. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway reaching or resting on the earth when it's topped, reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So let me just stop there. So Jacob's having a dream. He's at this place. He's in transition. He's going from one place to the next, and he stops to go to sleep. He has a dream, and this dream looks like a stairway that's going from earth to heaven. He's seeing angels coming down from heaven and going to earth. He's back and forth. Verse 13, there above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your, watch this, he's reminding now, I am the God of your father, Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Verse 14, he says, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Verse 15, and I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. This is so good. I'm going to try to be quick with this thing so you can stick in there. You can stick in and hang with me. Look at what that says. He says, listen, he says that I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go. He says, I am with you. He says, I am with you and will watch over wherever you go. That is so nice because I love this thought. The reason why God always says I am, this is what he did when he introduced himself to Abraham. See, what we have to do is we have to trust the provider, the promise, and the process, right? We have to trust the provider, the promise, and the process. God always introduces himself as I am because back then in those days, they didn't know God like that. But when God introduced himself, notice this, he did not introduce himself as another God. He did not introduce himself as, just a being. He says, I am. He says, in other words, I am the God. I'm introducing myself as, here's a word for you, Elohim, which means God Almighty. It means not another God. It means I am the God that is self-existent. In Exodus 3:14, God tells Moses to tell them that I am sent you. In other words, he's saying, listen, I want you to tell them my exact title, my right title. I am sent you. God is making it clear. I am the eternal God. I am the incomparable God. There is distinction here. You get it? He wants Jacob to know, listen, I was with your grandfather, I was with your father, and now I'm bringing the promise to you. God is showing contrast to his name. He's showing difference to his name, separation, if you will. He wants to show that he is the creator. He says, listen, he says, I will be with you. He says, I will be with you. He says, will and wherever. I love those words, with, will, and wherever. He says, with you. He says, I will be front side. I will be, look, court side with you, alongside with you. I'll be behind you. I'll cover all the bases, right? I'll be among you. I'm close at hand. I'm in company with you. If you accepted my son, Jesus, not only that, listen, I am in you. But he says, not only will I be with you, he says, I will watch over you. He says, I have the power and the ability to bring things into being. He says, I'm the manufacturer of molecules, the manufacturer of the wind. I'm the one that put the stamp on the waves. I'm the one that caused things to be. I have the capacity. He says also this, he says, wherever. I love the word wherever because there are some places that God will allow you to go, but then there are other places we go without his direction. There's places that we end up in. Don't you know that? And so where he says, no matter what happens, I will be with you wherever. Is there a place in your life that you are unaware that God is doing something? Does this place seem barren or bare or unfulfilling or vacant or desolate or depleted? Has your joy, has your passion to trust God been evacuated? Is the Lord desiring you to move, but you're roadblocked by the inability to abandon wrongdoing and abandon habits and abandon your attitude and abandon places of your life, practices of you not having discipline, you not taking action to confidently trust God? Is your own promise hindered due to the lack of your integrity to trust God in a different way? Do you got to see it before you believe it? Listen, is there a place where that you're just not really convinced that God will do it? And listen, is there a place in your life where he needs to prove something to you much more than what he's already proved? God wants to make sure that Jacob continued to trust him the way his grandfather Abraham did and his dad Isaac. This is just not a family tradition, if you will. This is a spiritual legacy. Let me ask you, what spiritual legacy are you leaving for your family or for someone that you love? Psalms 37:3-5 says, trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. I love this because watch verse 16, what happens. So God wanted to make sure Jacob knew that I am says, I will be with you forever. But watch this. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he says, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. Ooh, I love that. He says, surely God was in this place. Surely God was in that conversation, and I didn't even know it. Verse 17, watch this. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. I love what Jacob is talking about here because what I want you to know is that he wakes up from his sleep, from his slumber, and he recognizes that God is in his area. Is God calling you to do something you're not even aware of? Is God pursuing you to do something? Is God pulling you to trust him more? Is God wanting you to have more certainty and reliance and sureness and confidence and expectation about what he can do? Listen, when I say expectation, listen, I want you to understand God loves expectation because he loves things that appear impossible to us. He loves it. He loves when someone, listen, you know you shouldn't have that job. You know that your children shouldn't have been this blessed. You know the outcome of your situation shouldn't have been the outcome of your situations. But because God, listen, because God loves expectation, he loves Isaiah 55, 8 through 11, where he says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return from it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return empty. It will not return void, but it will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. Come on now. God has spoken something into your life. God is speaking into the area where you know, you may not even know that God is. Is God in, listen, God is in the building and you don't even know it. God is using your child and you may not even know it. God's using your talent. He's using your gift. God could have used the argument you had last week. Be true. It's true. God could have used that. God could have used your job situation, something that happened on your job last week. God could be using, allowing you to be in a dry place so that when he changes the atmosphere, you recognize who caused the blessing of rain and success in your life. Listen, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place and I was not aware of it. Make sense? I was not aware of it. He says, listen, God is in the background. Some of you are sleeping on God. Come on, let's be honest. I know I slept on him when I was a kid. I remember when I was in the music industry and God was calling me and I heard the voice like my mom on the cell phone. I knew that it was somebody calling my name, but I just didn't want to pick up the phone. God was in the background of my life. God was in the background making sure things end up right. God's in your background making sure you finish that class, making sure you finish out the semester strong. God's with you while you're away from home. God is in the background. God's in the foreground. Listen, are you sleeping on your gifts? Are you sleeping on the Lord? Are you sleeping on your time? Are you sleeping on your freedom? Are you sleeping on your job? Hope you're not. Are you sleeping on your blessings? Come on, wake up. Wake up, oh sleeper. Wake up and recognize God. That's what Jacob did. He woke up and he recognized that, wait a minute, God is in my spot. God is in my place. I might feel sad. That's a feeling. But the fact of the matter is God is in the house. God desires that you recognize his presence, that you admit that you know his presence, that you make a note. I tell my boys and my kids all the time, you got to make a note when God does something for you. When I'm praying, I put it down, and when God answers, I check it off and I put a date by it because that lets me know it's a glow stick. God did something for me. I can go back through the trail of my life and realize that that was God. He wants me to observe and perceive and remember and distinguish and recall and recollect and pinpoint and share it in my story so that I can know that he's working in the background. When you look at the course of your life, there are places and things that happen that you know, come on, let's be honest, that you know that it was nobody but God. That it was nobody but the Lord that kept you. That car accident, you saw the car, you saw what it was. There's no way you should have walked away from that. But it was God in the background. You heard what the doctor told you, but it was God in the background. Look at you. Listen, that person might be gone, but look what the person passed down to you. It was God in the background. He might be in the background of your situation, but he wants you to know, listen, he desires to be in the foreground of your mind, foreground of your attention, the foreground of your consciousness, the foreground of your thoughts. And when you move God from the back to the front of your attention, things have to change because, listen, your situation and all these things have to obey his authority. I love it. God in the background. That's what Jacob wanted us to know. Even though Jacob lied about his situation to his dad and stole the birthright, God says, I'm still going to use you. Listen, isn't that just like us? We do things, we put ourselves in situations. God says, don't you know, I'm working in the background. I know they didn't choose you, but I'm working in the background. I know you don't belong in that job. I know you don't belong on that team. But listen, God is for you. God's working things out for your good. I love that. Romans 8:29 says, all things work together for good because those that love God and are called according to his purpose. I hope you've been encouraged tonight. Just remember, God is in the background. I'm Pastor Ramone. Don't forget to follow and share.